When your ex pulls away, especially one with an avoidant attachment style, your instinct might be to chase, over-explain, or fix things, but that only pushes them further. The truth? Attraction isn't about convincing, it's about creating space, confidence, and magnetism. These 5 sexy moves don't just make your avoidant ex notice you, they draw them in without a word. When you walk into a room and you carry yourself with unbothered energy, it sends a signal far louder than any text, call, or emotional plea ever could. This kind of energy doesn't beg for attention, it naturally commands it. It's not loud or arrogant, but it's unmistakable. People feel it without knowing exactly why. It's the confidence that comes from knowing you don't need anyone to validate your worth, and especially not someone who once ran from your closeness. An avoidant ex thrives on distance, control, and emotional space. So when you show up with zero neediness, with your energy fully centered on yourself, you're creating a dynamic they're not used to. They expect pursuit, but instead they're met with someone who's clearly done chasing. That sudden shift becomes deeply attractive to someone who thought they had your emotional reactions mapped out. You're no longer operating in the emotional patterns they came to expect. You're relaxed. You're not overly expressive. You're just there, present, glowing in your own light, and uninterested in over-explaining. That unbothered energy makes them wonder what changed, what they lost, and who you're becoming without their attention. Unbothered doesn't mean cold. It doesn't mean playing hard to get. It means your nervous system is calm around them, not triggered. You're grounded, making eye contact without flinching, speaking in a tone that's neither too invested nor completely distant. You're simply in control of your own emotional state. That emotional independence isn't just powerful, it's irresistible. Because while the avoidant ex fears closeness that feels demanding or chaotic, they're drawn to composure and ease. That's exactly what unbothered energy projects. It's the quiet strength of someone who has learned to self-soothe, to regulate without reacting. And that kind of energy is both disarming and attractive. It creates a safe space, not for them to invade, but to step into by choice. This move isn't about playing a game. It's not a manipulation tactic. It's a reset. A new version of you is showing up, one that no longer prioritizes what they're thinking or feeling in every moment. You're not trying to read their silence, decode their mixed signals, or chase after crumbs of reassurance. You're standing tall in your own lane, giving off the vibe of someone who's already moved forward emotionally, even if physically they're still in the same space. That psychological distance, calm, stable, intentional, creates mystery, and avoidants are drawn to mystery far more than to emotional directness that feels overwhelming. You're still warm, still kind, still open, but there's a noticeable absence of over-effort. You're not volunteering your time, your heart, or your thoughts too quickly. You're measured, intentional, focused on the moment, and most importantly, focused on yourself. You've stopped trying to get them back and instead become someone they want to come toward. You're not reactive when they test you with subtle comments or emotional detachment. You respond with ease or not at all, because now you've built a life and energy that doesn't orbit around their behavior. That shift is magnetic. They may not say it out loud, but they feel it. And when they feel it, curiosity starts to build. They start to wonder if someone else is giving you what they couldn't. They begin to question the certainty they once had that you'd always be available, always waiting, always needing their affection. Now they're seeing someone who isn't bothered by their silence, who isn't shaken by their avoidance, who doesn't flinch when emotional intimacy isn't on the table. Instead of leaning in to fix or prove, you lean back and allow your self-worth to fill the space. That move, subtle and rooted in self-trust, becomes the most attractive version of power they've ever seen in you. Emotional detachment is often misunderstood as being cold or uncaring, but when used with intention, it becomes a powerful stance of self-preservation and silent strength. Especially when dealing with someone who has an avoidant attachment style. Emotional detachment isn't about cutting off all feelings. It's about pulling back the overextension of your emotional availability and reclaiming your energy. It's when you stop being the emotional anchor for someone who never offered you the same stability. Detachment means you've learned that your peace matters more than constant emotional management. You're no longer responding out of habit or hope, and instead, you're observing their behavior without attaching your worth to it. That is incredibly powerful in the dynamic with an avoidant ex because it creates a shift in control. They are used to you being the one emotionally activated, the one reaching out, the one trying to fix or reconnect. When you detach, you interrupt that cycle completely. Now, when they pull away or go silent, you don't chase, you don't explain, you don't try to fill the void. You let it be. You don't rush to interpret their distance as rejection, and you certainly don't abandon your own emotional center in response. This calm indifference creates a new level of respect. It's not passive aggressive. It's not fake. It's the result of inner work, of you choosing your well being over the compulsion to rescue a dynamic that drained you. You stop sharing every emotion, every thought, every hope that they'll see your heart more clearly. Instead, you allow space for you to breathe, to reset, to regain emotional clarity. And that space, to an avoidant, feels strangely unfamiliar and intriguing. They notice that you're not as emotionally accessible as before, that the door is still there, but it's no longer wide open. They now have to walk through it on their own, and that experience of not being emotionally pursued shifts their perception of you. They start to question their assumptions about you. They wonder if you've truly let go, if someone else is holding your attention now. They start to pick up on the emotional restraint you carry, not because you're trying to play hard to get, but because you're no longer invested in trying to emotionally rescue someone who chose to run. You've mastered the art of not responding to every message, not needing closure from every interaction, not collapsing into emotional intensity. That self-discipline is seductive. It creates an aura of calm that makes you stand out from the chaos they often fear in relationships. You no longer represent pressure, you represent peace. And peace, once tasted from someone they didn't expect it from, becomes deeply attractive. Detachment is also about energy. You're not drained, depleted, or emotionally chaotic when you interact with them. Your tone is steady, your words are minimal, and your eyes no longer search for validation. You're fully in control of your inner world. And when they notice that their actions don't have the same emotional effect on you anymore, they begin to feel a sense of emotional imbalance. For the first time, they realize you might not need them the way they assumed you did. That realization creates a subtle panic, not necessarily a loud or reactive one, but a silent questioning within them. The dynamic has changed. You're no longer the one emotionally reacting. You're the one observing, choosing, responding only when it serves your peace. That's not indifference. That's power. Power rooted in emotional maturity and self-awareness. You've chosen detachment not to hurt them, but to protect yourself from repeating a cycle that only left you exhausted. And that boundary, silent and firm, becomes a statement louder than any plea or promise ever could. Subtle curiosity is a magnetic force that pulls without pressure, speaks without noise, and creates a kind of tension that the avoidant ex can't quite name, but definitely feels. It's not about asking them direct questions or trying to reopen old conversations. It's about allowing them to witness your transformation without needing to announce it. When you begin to live in a way that makes them curious, everything shifts. You stop broadcasting your feelings or progress, and instead you simply live it. You're doing new things, going new places, showing up in different circles, and suddenly your world doesn't revolve around them anymore. There's no need to post with the intention of being seen. You're not trying to prove that you're happy, you are happy, and that difference is loud in silence. It's the subtle energy of someone who has moved into a new chapter without needing validation from the person who closed the last one. This curiosity builds slowly. It's not forced. You don't text to update them. You don't reach out with passive aggressive hints about your life. You just become someone who is genuinely engaged with something outside of the past. And when an avoidant feels that emotional distance mixed with evidence of your personal evolution, it shakes them. They're used to knowing exactly what you're doing, thinking, feeling. They built comfort in your emotional transparency. But now you're harder to read. You're not predictable anymore. You're doing things that don't involve them, and you're not seeking their approval. That sense of uncertainty creates curiosity. They start checking your stories, noticing who you're around, what you're doing. But it's not just the social updates, it's the emotional change they pick up when they do interact with you. You're lighter, your tone is effortless. There's no edge of desperation or unspoken expectation. You're not trying to be mysterious, you just are because you're genuinely focused on your own interests now. This curiosity becomes irresistible when paired with emotional maturity. You're not using it as a tactic. You're using it as a reflection of growth. When you speak, you share less. You reveal pieces, not paragraphs. You mention things in passing that make them pause. A book you're reading, a new interest, an unexpected plan. Each one leaves a trail of mystery, not because you're hiding, but because you're no longer offering your emotional world so easily. They want to know more, but they don't feel entitled to it anymore. And that's the shift. You're not trying to pull them back, you're letting your life speak for itself. And they feel the absence of your old emotional overexposure. Even in conversation, you no longer ask the same questions. You don't try to decode them. You don't lean into them with the same curiosity you once did. That reversal makes them feel the void of your attention. You've redirected your energy, and that makes you compelling in a way they didn't expect. They wonder why you seem so whole without them. They wonder who's inspiring you now. They wonder if they were ever as essential to your happiness as they thought. That internal questioning pulls them toward you, not out of ego, but out of intrigue. They want to understand who you've become. And the beauty of subtle curiosity is that it doesn't chase, it lingers. It creates an emotional invitation without pressure. You've become someone they have to work to understand again. And that kind of energy flips the dynamic completely. You're no longer trying to be seen. You're busy becoming, and that alone creates a gravitational pull they can't ignore. Growth that is quiet is the most powerful kind. When you begin to evolve without needing to prove anything, that's when people really start to notice, especially someone with an avoidant attachment style. Avoidants are often hyper alert to emotional pressure. So when you're in a space where you've genuinely grown, but you're not advertising it or forcing them to see it, the change becomes impossible to ignore. You're no longer speaking from a place of proving your worth. You're speaking from a place of knowing it. You don't need to announce your healing or transformation because it shows in the way you handle yourself, the way you respond, the way you move through the world. You've stopped centering them in your growth journey. Now it's about you, your peace, your clarity, your goals, your self-awareness. This kind of growth radiates without having to be explained. It's in your posture, in your smile, in the way you no longer flinch when you hear their name or see a message. That calm, composed energy is a result of deep inner work, and that energy carries a weight they feel even if they don't say a word. You're not talking about all the books you've read or the journaling you've done. You're not quoting therapy sessions or sharing deep emotional insights with the hope that they'll validate you. You're simply integrating all of that into your daily existence. You speak differently now, more slowly, more thoughtfully. You're no longer rushing to be understood. You let people meet you where you are, and if they can't, you don't bend yourself backwards to help them catch up. That kind of emotional independence isn't just a sign of strength, it's a form of attractive mystery. Avoidants don't know what to do with someone who's not emotionally reactive, who doesn't look for approval, who doesn't ask for closure or chase connection, and that unsettles them in the most interesting way. You've grown in how you respond. You no longer take silence as rejection, distance as personal. You've learned to pause, to reflect, and most importantly, to protect your peace. That restraint in your reactions, that quiet strength in your voice speaks volumes. Where before you may have over-explained or defended yourself, now you simply don't. You've outgrown the version of you who needed them to see your worth. That evolution becomes more powerful than any words you could offer. They begin to sense that you're no longer emotionally available in the same way. And that space you've created becomes the very space they feel drawn toward. Because what once felt too intense now feels balanced. What once overwhelmed them now grounds them. Growth also shows in your boundaries. You don't respond to breadcrumbs. You don't engage in emotional tug of wars. You recognize when communication is one-sided, and instead of confronting it, you withdraw your energy, not as a game, but as self-respect. You value your time, your heart, your energy in a way you didn't before. And the avoidant X picks up on that shift. They realize they're no longer dealing with the same version of you who tolerated emotional inconsistency or begged for connection. That kind of change doesn't need to be loud to be effective. It's visible in how you carry yourself, how you protect your energy, how you interact with the world without needing to be validated for every step forward. Your priorities have changed. Your focus is no longer on what went wrong, but on what you're building next. And even if they don't say it, they notice the difference. They see that your life is moving forward without needing them as the emotional anchor. And they start to wonder where they fit now, if at all, in this new version of you they can't quite predict or control. Silent tension is one of the most underrated forces of attraction, especially when it's directed at someone who once held emotional power over you. It's not the kind of tension that comes from games or manipulation. It's the kind that lingers in the space between two people when one of them has clearly changed and the other can't quite figure out how. It's the moment when you cross paths with your avoidant ex and you don't flinch, don't smile too wide, don't over-acknowledge them. You meet them with calm eyes, a grounded presence, and an unreadable energy. You don't fill the air with small talk or try to smooth the awkwardness. You let the silence be. You allow them to feel the shift without rescuing them from it. And that pause, that absence of emotional reaction, becomes louder than anything you could have said. It creates an imbalance, a void that makes them suddenly aware that they don't affect you the way they used to. That realization is powerful and it stirs something deep inside them. Avoidant individuals are often most drawn in when they feel something they can't immediately label or control. Silent tension delivers that in its purest form. You're no longer emotionally accessible in the way they remember. You don't react to their presence with the same warmth or curiosity. You're pleasant, maybe even kind, but you've reclaimed all your energy. There's no eagerness to connect, no desire to impress. You've taken back the emotional weight they once carried in your life and placed it back within yourself. That neutrality makes them feel exposed. Because in your silence, there is no validation, no confirmation that you still care, no invitation to step back into the comfort zone they once took for granted. This kind of tension isn't dramatic. It's subtle, deliberate, and incredibly effective. It's in the way you no longer rush to fill emotional space. You pause, you observe, you allow the moment to speak for itself. Even your body language reflects this shift. Your posture is relaxed, your gaze steady, your movements unhurried. You're not leaning in, you're not shrinking back. You're just there, fully in your power, saying nothing but communicating everything. And in that stillness, they begin to feel the weight of their own absence in your life. The emotional hooks they once relied on, your predictability, your need for closeness, your visible vulnerability are gone. What remains is someone they can't read, someone they can't reach unless they make a real effort. That makes you magnetic in a way that's entirely new to them. Silent tension also thrives in the moments where you could speak, but choose not to, where you could explain yourself, defend your boundaries, or express your disappointment, but you don't. You just hold the space. You don't owe them emotional labor. You don't need them to understand anymore. You're not seeking clarity or validation. You've moved to a place where your energy speaks before your words do, and they feel that shift like a pressure they can't shake. It lingers after the interaction ends. It replays in their mind when they're alone. It makes them question everything they assumed about your connection, about their role in it, about how replaceable or irreplaceable you truly are. There's power in not reacting. There's a deep, seductive strength in restraint. You don't need to prove that you've grown. You let them feel it. You don't argue for your worth. You embody it. That kind of presence stays with people. It lingers in their mind, in their thoughts, in their memory of you. Silent tension creates space, and in that space, their curiosity grows. They begin to wonder what they missed, what they lost, what changed. And that wondering leads them down the path of reflection, sometimes even regret. You've become a mirror now, not of who you were, but of who you are becoming. And the less you say, the more powerful your presence becomes.